Hi, welcome back. Today's class will be focusing on the wrists, classes for carpal tunnel. If you don't have carpal tunnel or any kind of pain or inflammation, it's still a good class for you to do to get the wrist moving in the right direction. So gather around you at least one strap and one block. You can have a bolster and have one chair. All right, so we'll get started. Before we get started, if you enjoy this video and find it helpful, please give it a like. And if you're new to my channel, subscribe and don't forget to click the bell so that you are notified when the new videos are uploaded. Now let's get started. All right, you can sit in Vajrasana so that you're sitting on the heels. If that's not comfortable for you, then take some support and you can sit on a block. You can have the block between the ankles. Take whatever height you need. If you need to sit higher, then you can also sit in a chair. We're just going to start here by working with our arms. So carpal tunnel is something that can come from the median nerve from the wrist here. So you have three bones that it coincides with. You have some connective tissue, and it's like a tunnel. So you've got the bones, the connective tissue, and then you've got that median nerve that goes from there all the way up into the arm, okay? So many times this can be inflamed. The symptoms can cause inflammation, pain, tingling, and numbness. So if you have that, or any degree of it, it could be caused from a medical condition. It can be caused from inflammation from a medical condition. It can also be caused from repetitive action. So we use our phones a lot now. So this can come from this action of the wrist coming in a lot, or a mouse, which not as many people use anymore, but maybe you're still using a mouse, but definitely the phones and the keyboard. So this action of the wrist bending in like this brings this pressure on this nerve, especially if it's done over time, over successive number of days, months, and years. All right. So here, whether you're having pain or not, all of that I'm going to show you is going to be good for opening this area, creating space, length, and either preventing it or giving you some tools here so that you don't have to have an operation. If you look on the internet, many times they don't give you exercises. If it's put on by a doctor, maybe they'll just talk about having an operation here. They have several little operations you can do. But you can move your hands and do different things to bring energy down into your hands, into your wrist, into your arm, that can help you recover from that. All right, so not always do you need to have surgery. All right, let's just start with our elbows bent, and we'll take our hands and make a fist, and then stretch your fist down towards you. So keep your chest lifted, moving the fist down towards you, so you can feel that length coming through the front. You can even take your hand and stretch it even more. Okay? And then you're going to do the opposite, or you move the hand down. You can take the hand on the fist also to you're opening that space. So just doing a few times so that you're moving back and forth, trying to keep the forearms lifted. Just bring in a little bit of mobility into the wrist, and then bring the hands parallel to one another and just move the wrists in this direction now, where the hand is moving down toward the floor. So you're now lengthening this upper side and shortening this underneath side. Okay, so back and forth. And now coming to the other side, where you're lengthening here and you're shortening on the inside. Just do that a few times. Just observe what you feel, observe the sensations. If you feel any pain, or if you feel any stretching, just breathe into it. If it's too painful, then ease back. So always let pain be your guide. But we don't want to move away from pain completely. So you have to be the judge where that's, if if it's too much or not. Okay? And now stretch the fingers out. Bring the fingers away from you, stretching the inside, and then bringing the fingers towards you, and doing that a couple times. Bringing the hands towards you and away from you. All right. So you can feel that in your shoulders, creating that muscular action in your shoulders. Now we're going to bring the hands high. So we're going to do first with the palms open, spread the fingers, bring the thumbs and all the fingers away from one another, and then bring the fingers down toward the floor. So here you can feel that length coming the top, and then going into that opposite direction, coming to neutral, and then coming down. Coming to neutral, and then coming up. So that neutral position is important, especially if you're someone that has some repetitive action where the hands are always curling in. It's better to keep that wrist in a neutral or bring the hand up. Okay? So sometimes they recommend a brace. Often people sleep with their hands moving this way, so at night you're not as aware of what you're doing, so you can have a brace to keep the hand in this neutral position. Okay, so now interlace the fingers and press the palms out. So again, you're opening through that front of the wrist, and then lift the arms up, reach up. Press the wrist up, lengthening the whole arm right down into the shoulders. Just be aware of what you feel, and then bring the hands down. If that was too much to interlace your fingers like that, you can always just take the belt also and hold on to the belt. You can take the belt and bring it into a loop like this. So you keep the palms facing one another, and you've got that neutral position, and then just bring the arms up. That feels really nice too. It's pressing against the front of the wrist, the inner wrist can press away, and you're getting the length through the whole arm, dropping the shoulders. So just be aware of what you feel, extend your fingers, lengthen up, and then bring your hands down. For those of you interlacing your fingers, changing the cross on the fingers. Can't remember if we did that or not, but just you can do this a couple different times and then lift up. Squeeze the fingers, pull the wrists away from one another, and then you'll feel that broadness in the chest, across the upper back. And then come down. All right, so now you're going to stand up. And just stand in Tadasana. So in Tadasana, you bring your hands down. So again, your wrists are in that neutral position. Stretch your fingers down. I'll just show you behind. You're going to take the hands behind you and extend the arms. So stretch the fingers back. Move the chest forward. Front thighs are moving back. Tailbone, middle buttocks moving forward. Stretch your arms. Now, if you were able to interlace your fingers, take your fingers again. Otherwise, you can have that strap behind you. And then extend the arms. So here you're helping to lengthen that whole inner arm and that nerve that runs right down into the wrist. Move the wrists away from one another. Move the shoulders away from one another. Opening the chest. And then bring the hands down. And then change the cross on the fingers. Holding again, so squeezing the fingers, pulling the wrists away, lengthening the arms, and reach the arms back. Stay balanced on your feet. If having the feet together is throwing you off balance, then separate the feet a little bit so you have more stability, distributing that weight, and then release. Okay, so now you're going to bring your hands in front of you, Tadasana, or Namaskar. So I've got all the fingers against one another, and I'm pressing into the wrist. All right, so just feeling what that feels like. And then I'm going to ask you to take the hands behind you into Paschima Namaskar. So you can take the hand back and catch the baby finger side, the ring side, the middle finger side, and the index finger. And then press the heel of the hand. From the elbow, press into the heel of the hand. And you can feel that length coming on the wrist. So just be with that. Observe what you feel. If it's too much, just straighten your arms again. Come to that neutral position. And then try again. Bring your hands up. Bring the fingers against one another. Right, lining up right in the center of the spine. Lift the chest, broaden through the collarbones. Bring the elbows back. And feel that pressure into the mat. If you're not quite touching, that's difficult. You're still moving in this direction from the elbow to the mounds of the thumb and the whole heel of the hand. And then come back to that neutral position. If that was difficult for you, then bringing your hands into that neutral position, hold on to the elbows. And there you would just move your shoulders back. Press the wrist against the forearm and stretch out through the fingers. So depending on your medical condition, depending on what you can do in your body, then you take one of those, okay? All right, now I'm going to ask you to get a chair. So we're going to put the chair on the end of your mat. So just open the chair and sit on the chair. So, and of course, any of the things that we did before with the arms, with the wrist, you can do that in a seated position also. So that means you can do that anytime. If you're just sitting in the house and you just want to work on your wrist, just sitting on your kitchen chair, whatever it may be. All right, so now here you're going to take your hands behind you and press your hands down into that chair. So the heel of the hand is pressing down. Lift the chest. As you do that, you're rolling the shoulder out, you're straightening the elbow, pressing down into the heel of the hand. But if you have inflammation or serious pain, then, just straighten the arm. Okay, so let pain be your guide. But if you don't have any pain, press the heel of the hand down and lift up through the upper arm, lift up through the chest. So you're lengthening the whole inner arm. You're active on the outer arms as well, and you're pressing into the hands. You can also take your hands back, onto the chair back, onto the forearm, stretch out through the fingers. Let's see. I want your thumbs facing down toward the floor. Okay, fingers straight back, so you can look back, see which way your fingers are pointing. Thumb is down toward the floor. Stretch your fingers out behind you and roll the shoulders back. So you're getting that openness through the chest, you're getting that length through the upper arm. All right? And now you can stay on the chair, and you're going to use the strap if you need the strap. So just have the strap in your hand. You may not need it. Here you're going to bring your arms out. Palms are in a neutral position. You're going to cross your right over your left. So you can take your elbows in towards you, hands on your shoulders. Keep the forearms lifted, the elbows lifted, and then bring the hands back out so you can see both palms. Now turn the bottom hand and hook it on the top hand. So you want to bring the wrist into neutral position again. So Garudasana, your forearms are pressing together, chest is lifting. Now, if you aren't able to catch, you can have the strap. And with that strap, hold onto the strap and stretch out through the fingers. Okay, so if you're not able to catch the finger on the hand, then you use that strap. All right, and then release. Just let your shoulders rest down. And then bring your hands out again. Bend the elbows. Keep the upper arm lifted, forearm perpendicular to the floor. And then bring your elbows over. So you're crossing as high up as you can. Holding on. Give yourself a big hug. Lift your elbows. Lift your upper arms and your forearms. And then bring them out again away from you. See the lower hand? You're going to turn that toward the palm and press them against one another till you bring both wrists into a neutral position. Stretch out through the fingers. So again, if you needed that strap, have the strap in the top hand and let it drop down, and then with the other hand, hold onto that strap and bring those wrists into a neutral position. So you're not bending the wrist. Now lift up through the upper arm, lift up through the shoulders. Okay, so release. And then take the hands out in front of you again. Press out. Inhale, lift up. Release the fingers, neutral wrists. Extend the fingers up toward the ceiling. Bring the arms down, stretch the arms back behind you, neutral wrist, stretch the fingers. And then release. Okay, so now we're taking the chair to the wall. We're going to use the support of the wall with the chair. And we're going to do a little bit more weight bearing. So if you have really, really painful wrists, just watch that you don't put too much pressure on your wrists. If this part is not going to be good for you, you can just remember that when you start feeling better, this is a way that you can practice. So oftentimes yoga students notice their wrists only because we start doing inversions, downward dog, and other things that we put our weight on our hands, wrist-bearing handstand. So here, we're going to take the chair, and we'll come into, first, just stand in front of the chair, and bring your hands to the wall, and first straighten the palms, straighten your arms, lift up tall, spread through the fingers, press, and line up your wrists, so the inner wrist and the outer wrist are in one straight line. And press there evenly, just gently, and move your upper arms away. Okay, and then start to walk back a little bit, come into Ardha Uttanasana. Now my hands are quite high, so depending on your condition, your shoulders, tension in your shoulders, you can take your hands higher. All right, so there's less weight there, and you're shifting your weight back towards your heels. Or you can bring the hands down a little bit and have the hands in line with your shoulders. You'll walk your feet back, coming into Ardha Uttanasana. So again, lining up the inner wrist and the outer wrist, stretching the fingers, lengthen back through the arms. You can have your feet hips width apart, and just observe what you feel in the hands, the wrists. Spread all the fingers and press the fingers into the wall. So you can feel if you're able to lengthen a little bit. Use your breath. And then coming back. And then you can turn your hand down. So we do this sometimes on the floor, getting ready for handstand. But here, you're going to do it without bearing any weight. You're just going to walk away a little bit and see if you can extend the front of that wrist, see how that's feeling. And then come back. And now you're going to take the hands out, turn the hands out, fingers away from you, and then walk back again. Turning the hand, you're getting that rotation on the top of the arm. Pressing into the fingers, you're lengthening. So here my hands are a little high. If you want to come in line with your shoulders, if you have open shoulders, no tension in the shoulders, and come down. And always you can take your feet wider, or you can come into Tadasana. So here the weight is distributed. You can feel the weight on the left and the right. So spreading through the fingers, lifting the forearm away from the wall. So not pressing into the wall, but have the heel of the hand on the wall, but then lift with the arms away from the wall. So you're creating more lightness there. And then walk back. Stand back in Tadasana. Neutral position on your hands, fingers pointing down. Now we're going to get ready to use the chair for a downward facing dog. So downward facing dog is there's an angle and you have your hands on the floor. Here the angle won't be as much. So you can take the heel of your hand to the front of the chair. So the angle is reduced. Use the front of the hand to press into the chair and lift the arms away from the chair. Spread through the fingers, keep the fingers widening. You can also hold the chair here. This will be a more neutral position. So holding the front seat of the chair, you can see the wrists are not at an angle, but they're lengthening. And you're still coming into that downward dog action. So if you have a lot of pain, this may be the better one for you. And then come forward. Now another one we do is Pincha Mayurasana on the floor. So Pincha Mayurasana, your forearms are coming to the wall instead of on the floor. And then you'll walk away. So I'm going to bring my arms down, keep my wrists in a neutral position, spread through the fingers, and lengthen away. So here I'm getting that openness through the upper arms, shoulders, the back, and stretching the fingers up toward the ceiling. And then come up. And then you can take the chair and bring your forearms onto the chair. A little bit deeper work. See where it's best to put the hands. I've got my thumb around the back leg. Maybe the hand more in the center, forearms resting on the chair. And then press the elbow down, press the forearm down, neutralize the wrist, and concave the back. And then come back again to that downward dog position with the hands this time pressing downward, lengthen. And then come back. So if you're, depending on your practice and how you're practicing, if you're doing inversions, you can take a block and you can bring your hands around the block by pressing the front of the hand, or the palm into that block. And whether you go up into the inversion or not, just lengthening that outer wrist. Remember we were doing this movement of the hand. Press that hand into the block and then just come up like you were coming into downward dog. So from there you can have your feet wide, move your chest forward, but keep that lower wrist on the floor. Stretch your fingers out. Legs are strong, thighs are moving back. And then come down, come into forward Virasana. Extend your arms, keep your palms on that block, release your head down. You can turn your palms down. And then take your hands back and have the front of the wrist on the floor. Let your hands relax completely. And then come up. Okay, we're going to use a chair, a block, and a bolster to go into an inversion, but before we do that, you can have a strap in your right hand and take your arm up, stretch your arm up, and then you'll take your hand back. Let that strap drop down, take your other arm behind you, and with your palm open and your wrist in a neutral position, take hold of that strap, and then with the other one, neutralize that hand. If you don't need to have the strap and you can catch your hands, throw your hand up and just bend your fingers. So you keep the wrist in a neutral position, lift the upper arm up, roll that other arm back so you can feel right at the center of the spine. So here I'm opening up and I'm pressing against the back to neutralize that lower wrist. Standing at Tadasana, you can have your feet a little bit apart. So balancing your weight, lift up through that top elbow, up through the whole armpit chest. Breathe. And then release. We'll do the other side. So walk your hand up, coming into that same action of Paschima Namaskar. The hands behind you. Bring the other arm up. Either catch the finger or have the strap in the top hand. So pressing that wrist against your back, neutralize, just bend your fingers, lift up through the top arm, and stand in Tadasana. So the feet moving back, be on the front of the foot, the back of the foot, thighs are back, tailbone forward, and reach that elbow up. And then release. Bring your hands back down, and then palms facing one another. Neutral wrist, stretch the fingers up. And then bring the hands down. Okay, so now I've got a bolster, I've got a chair at the wall, and I have a block. You don't need that strap. So just watch. I'm going to come down into Satya Bandha, or a bit of a shoulder stand. So I have the bolster away from the chair legs, quite a distance, so my hips can come in. And then I'm pressing my feet against that chair. And I'm walking the hips in a little bit more. And then I'm going to lift up so that when I lift, I want the tops of the shoulders just onto the bolster. Shoulder blades are moving down, and then lift up. So now you have that block. You're pressing your feet into the chair. Take the block so that it's on the narrow edge and bring it right at your tailbone. So you can feel the prick of the block and then move the tailbone onto the block. So now the whole tailbone is parallel to the floor. Take your hands back, thumbs facing up, roll the shoulders under. So getting that length through the whole inner arm, extend. And now interlace the fingers beyond the block, and again, roll onto the outer arms. Stretch the fingers, stretch the hand. And then press the feet into that chair, lift up. Press the arms down. And come back down. And now turn the hands and catch the fingers on the chair legs and open through that wrist. And extend the legs up. So your backs of the thighs are resting on the chair, the feet are at the wall. You're in an inversion, and the arms are lengthened. So the inner arm in particular, and that wrist is open and neutral. Your fingers are bent like they were when you were in Gomukhasana, with the arms lifted up. So stay in that position. It's allowing the work of gravity to allow the the chest to stay lifted while the blood flow moves to the heart, into the throat, into the glands, into the head. And then you can just release your arms to the side. So your shoulders are pressing down. If you want to bring your arms back like this, so you still weight on your shoulders and your upper arms. You can bring your hands so they're just relaxed and the palms are moving down toward the floor. So we usually keep our hands behind us for a time, but if you feel confident and you're stable, and you don't need that extra movement of the hands in the opposite direction, your shoulders are stable, then you can bring your hands out to the side. Just relax your hands, relax your fingers, relax your breath. And then bring your hands onto your abdomen. Again, bring the hands down to that chair, leg. And then take the feet onto the chair. And one more time, lift up. Move the hips up, move the tailbone up. And at the same time, you can feel the inner arm lengthening. Hold the fingers around that chair leg so you can lengthen that inner wrist, inner arm. Remember that median nerve runs all the way from between the bones and that connective tissue at your wrist, all the way up through the inner arm and up into the shoulders. So sometimes you just feel the tension and pain in the nerve in the wrist, but many times if you're tight in the shoulders and the upper arms, will affect your upper shoulder girdle as well. So good to keep that awareness moving from your hands up into the shoulders, into the chest. All right, and now you're going to slide down. Let that block, you can take the block away or let the block just turn on its side. Bring your hips onto that bolster and just rest your legs on the chair. And you can take Savasana here. Just bring your arms out. So again, the inner arm is turning out, the palm is completely neutral, the fingers are relaxed, letting the fingers just curl in on themselves. Calves heavy on the chair. And you have that bolster under your lower back. So making sure that your lower back or your middle back is moving the right way from your hips so you have that length. If your legs are quite long, your femur bones, and you don't need that bolster, then you can take the bolster away and just have your hips on the floor. Okay? So there, you're getting a nice connection with your lower back. So I'll take the bolster to the side. My hips are on the floor. And now, with the blocks, I'm just going to take a block and bring it right onto the hand, the heel of the hand, and the fingers, so that I bring the hand and the wrist into a neutral position. So have your block, if you have foam blocks, it might not be as heavy. If you have little weights, you can bring it right onto the heel of the hand. So I want this whole part to relax. And this is the part that when you're sleeping is moving in this position. That's why sometimes they ask you to have a brace. But here in Shavasana, you can just keep that weight on the forearm and on the heel of the hand, on both hands, so that you encourage that feeling of letting go there, of relaxing the nerves, relaxing the fingers, and feel that neutral position to just inform the whole nervous system to relax. Stay with your breath. Notice where you're lifting, where you're tightening. Bring your breath there. Let's see if you can release a little bit. Soften. I'm going to come up and I'm going to bring the block right on the front of the hand. So the fingers are even down, descending now. So you can adjust for different positions. See what you feel supports you best to release and relax. Okay, so with my fingers completely releasing, I have a different sensation. So just be curious, see what you find when you adjust with different positions, always trying to come to that neutral position when you're not doing a little work with the wrists or in a pose that requires you to be more active, but just bringing the wrists neutral, relaxed, fingers extended. And observe. Observe and observe what happens when you stay a little bit longer. When you consciously start to relax the fingers, you consciously start to relax the wrist, the forearm, and the shoulders. All right. So I'm going to come up now, taking the blocks away. I'll roll onto my right. You can rest there for a few breaths and then come up. Okay, so when you come up, just sit cross-legged. And I just want to say these blocks are very heavy. So these are wooden blocks. So that really helped to lengthen my fingers, my wrist. If you don't have anything like that, maybe you have a weight. You know, they have these little metal weights you can get, and you can bring that also onto your wrist, onto your forearm. So just using what you need, what you have in your house, or what you know is available near you, and use those kinds of props to help you bring more neutrality. So when you're just standing, notice if your wrists are bending. If you're seated at the desk, what you're doing, making sure that that table or your keyboard is in a position so your wrists can remain neutral, so you're not like this. So all these little things really help in your lifestyle of your everyday. So you can do these kinds of things to alleviate the pain and to bring more circulation. But then if you haven't adjusted your lifestyle and you haven't adjusted what you're doing every day in your life, then it won't make that much difference. So just start to be aware of how you sit, what kinds of things, activities you do in your life, and when you're in this position a lot. Okay, that repetitive action is very difficult on the body. You know, if you're someone that throws a ball, you can have that repetitive action as well. So there's many different ways that it can come. So just start to observe your different activities and your different actions and see if you can start to undo some of that. Slowly we undo. So when you're sitting cross-legged, this is nice as well. Press the hands against the knees. So coming in just to a cross-leg position. Just come back to the breath. Take a few breaths here. You can stretch your fingers down to open that back of the wrist. So there's all sorts of things that you can do in your daily life just to bring some neutrality and some balance. Okay. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've learned something that will help you ease your pain or just get some more mobility in the body. If you'd like to look at some other classes, maybe that are working on the arms and the shoulders and inversions that will also translate into the wrists and the hands, then take a look at these. Okay, so enjoy your practice and stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Namaste.